Well, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. My name is Linda Biko, CEO and founder of About Partners, which is a co-sourcing and representation company. Not that one company is enough, but I decided to found another company, which is Biko, which is a digital platform that helps properties in the digital space. I just want to say, a big thank you to everyone for joining us today. Today is the first part of a 3-series, which our aim is to educate, inform really about the wellness travel. One of the key things for us at APLBC is always to add value to our partners and our members. And the way we aim to do this is through education and content. And for me, I always think that, it's good to be part of a community, to share knowledge, and more importantly, to give insight as well, because there's things always happening and changing all the time. At APLBC, we always believe in working with the best. So, I'm going to hand it over to Sahara in a few minutes, because she's obviously the best when it comes to wellness. But for me, I think the journey with wellness really started after COVID, when the conversation started about mental health, and then really people valued their time. So to get people to do anything, it's not just about, for us, about the hotels having a gym or a yoga studio. It has to be a little bit deeper than that. And I think these are conversations that it's really important to have, because it's not just leisure travel anymore, it's also business travel. And for us, it's really important that we look at that, because when I say us, I mean hotels, apartments, because that's the way we can add competitive advantage. And people have already started talking about it. So I think for us, as time is going on and we want to look at new revenue streams, this is something that we really need to focus on. So I'm just going to hand over to Sahara, that's going to give us some top tips and starters on the journey.
Thank you so much, Linda, and thank you so much to everyone who's joining us today and everyone who's watching the replay. I hope that you find this webinar jam-packed with value and things for you to think about, whether you are a hotel or a property or a travel professional. The 3-part webinar series is going to be getting you thinking about what can you do in the future of wellness, and what does it look like in the current world here as well. I'm going to share my screen so we have something to kind of follow along with here. Alrighty, and today I am talking about, in our first webinar, wellness travel that has nothing to do with gyms, spas, and yoga. Before I get started, I'll share a little bit more about myself. I am Sahara Rose DeVore. I am a certified corporate wellness travel coach and consultant. I spent many, many years traveling around the globe to over 84 countries and talking to other travelers about what travel was meant to them and why they actually chose to travel and what that had, the value that it had on their life. You can find me in over 100+ media outlets like Travel Weekly and Fodor's and USA Today. And I do want to state that everything that I am saying and providing in this education session today is based on research and studies and statistics from reputable sources. I am not providing any medical advice to anyone. The purpose of our 3-part wellness webinar series is to get your wheels turning on things to think about, not only regarding wellness and travel, but travel as a whole, to inspire you to come out as a leader in the current and future of hospitality, to bring something different to the table than what you're probably already heard of regarding wellness and travel, and probably what you're already doing, and to think outside the box and step away from legacy concepts. I want to get you thinking about, what are you going to do to attract travelers and keep them coming back? How are you going to differentiate your brand among others? What are you actually selling? What kind of experiences, services, offers can you provide that aren't just centered on gyms, spas, and yoga? The healing benefits of travel, and why people truly travel and what are they actually looking for. We're going to start with a quote here. An aviation futurist in fast travel, Rohit Talwar, says the travel industry will be transformed fundamentally within the next 2 to 5 years. This is going to be a learning process which requires the sector to adapt using very different strategies. Hence, travel sector players like yourself need to use the current period of lower activity to think long and hard about the next wave of business models, products, services, and to experiment with radically different ideas as they search for differentiation, profitability, sustainability, and growth. And before we move on again, here's another quote from Arjanji, from the Chief Marketing Officer at Booking.com. He states that people will still make wish lists. They will still want to visit popular destinations such as New York, Paris, and Venice. And alongside those, particularly in light of the work from home trend, which is further fueling our need to travel, they're also craving new experiences, especially those that will immerse them in nature. And that's why nature and human connection are going to be a key piece to today's education session. We want to also think about travel not as just a vacation or a luxury, but we want to think about travel as a necessity. And why does this, what I'm talking about in today's presentation, what is this topic? Why is it even important? When we think about the past few years, it has taken a huge toll on us as human beings. How and why people travel now has changed. Where they choose to go and how long they choose to go for has a lot more meaning behind it. The pandemic also brought topics like well-being and self-care to the forefront, which is why, as a hotel, this webinar is very important. People travel for more purpose than to relax in a spa or to work out in their hotel suite. It's time that we stop putting a disconnect between wellness and travel, because wellness is travel and travel is wellness. It's time that hotels and travel professionals like yourselves think outside of the norm of what a wellness experience looks like and start getting back to the roots on what travel can truly do for our personal and work life. The CEO of Ennismore Hospitality Design, Sharon Pajrika, states, as we navigate a post-pandemic world and adapt to new demands and new desires, lifestyle hospitality brands must continue to push boundaries, challenge expectations, and tell new stories, end quote. It's time to change your mindset when it comes around well-being, what it means, and how it's applied to travel. Wellness isn't just about yoga or meditation sessions. It isn't just about state-of-the-art spas or gym facilities. It's not about the type of in-room amenities that you offer. For over a decade before the pandemic, corporate workers were even leaving their high-paying jobs to travel the world. People were seeking more freedom-based nomadic lifestyles. Therefore, there must be something so powerfully healing and fulfilling about travel that hotels are missing out on in their offers. Let's have a look at what wellness looks like in the travel industry pre-pandemic, during, and currently. Pre-pandemic, we see a lot of diet, healthy meal options, great gyms, spas, yoga sessions in room. During the pandemic, it was pretty much strictly around health and safety and sanitation and the safety of the travelers. And then today's world of travel and wellness, we see a lot of new treatments, facials. I've heard of IV drips. Yoga and meditation are now outdoors. We do spend time in nature, but still on the grounds. Maybe there's some running and hiking groups, which is great. But there could be so much more, because let's take a look at why people travel. I've spoken with thousands of travelers over the past 10 years and asked them why they choose to travel. I can tell you that not once has an answer ever been to get a facial at a spa, because people most likely can do that for less money and closer to their hometown. Instead, I hear common things like this. I travel to feel something new. I travel to have new experiences, to learn, to grow, to transform. to connect and meet new people, to heal from a heartache, a divorce, or the death of a loved one, to build a relationship with my partner or my children or my family members, to find purpose in my life and to soul search, and much more. I hear also a lot of times to try new foods, to escape, to have freedom, to heal, to impact the lives of others around the world, and to make an impact on the planet in a positive way. These are very common answers of why people travel. So I want you to think about, are you touching on any of these when it comes to your services and offers centered around wellness at your in your business, in your brand, in your property? If our needs, priorities, and desires have changed drastically over the past couple of years, can the travel industry really afford to continue on how it was pre-pandemic? Can the wellness tourism industry really continue to offer the same things as before? Topics like personalized experience and well-being were being tossed around a lot pre-pandemic, but nothing truly unique was being done. Like I said, we hear about comfier beds, maybe there's hotels with windows of the ocean view, diets, Pelotons in rooms, exercise. But when we travel, we have a different persona every single time. The offers that you are creating are assuming that we travel the same way and want the same exact experience every time that we go on a trip. But in reality, every time we're doing something different. We have a different intention. Maybe one time we're traveling solo and need alone time. The next time we travel with our partner and we need we're working to strengthen our bond or learn more about one another or to create lifelong memories. And sometimes we might need to travel to close a business deal. Barbara Rose from EY, Ernst & Young, America's travel manager. She, in a webinar, was talking about the outcomes of trips based on the persona, and the same thing with the company Amadeus. So they too were talking about this concept of personas and getting to know the traveler based on their intentions and needs for a specific trip in general, and then customizing an experience based on that. And that's going to look different every time. You must meet people at their personal and professional needs and offer them an experience that provides transformation or an outcome that they're in search of, rather than assuming that relaxing in a spa, working out in an in-room fitness center with a screen, or essential oils in the jacuzzi are the answer to what they're looking for. A quote from Dr. Richard Carmona, the 17th US Surgeon General. He said in a webinar with the Global Wellness Summit, quote, "We need to look to our past for our answers of wellness. We need to connect the dots of the mind, the body, and the spirit, because the elements that we need have been there all along." So end quote. So when we think about that, we think of travel and we think of the roots of why we travel in the first place: to connect, to learn, to grow, to search, to explore, to discover. So how can you integrate these elements of travel into your experiences that you provide centered around wellness? A quote from a dear friend, Rachel Riggs, the Wellbeing Solutions Leader at Merits, says that well-being, is about attending to the whole human. So travel isn't just about mental and physical wellness. It's also about emotional, spiritual, social, intellectual, physiological, occupational, and financial wellness as well. You've probably heard of the term transformative travel. What does that really mean? During 2020, Intrepid, the travel company, did a list of not hotspots where people really felt like they felt transformed, but weren't very popular travel destinations we hear about quite often. And these are two pictures from two of those destinations on the list, which are Komodo and Sumatra, islands in Indonesia. So when we think about why people, we take a look at these pictures, why are people looking to travel in? What does a transformation really look like? and define that within your own brand. What kind of experience and outcome or solutions and changes are you providing someone in their time with you? And remember, it's about the value of travel that it has on our personal life and even our work life nowadays. It's not just about the services and the treatments. Travel is healing in so many proven ways, and we're going to dive into that in just a minute. But first, I want to share a quote from Psychology Today. They say, quote, "Well-being is the experience of health, happiness, and prosperity. It includes good mental health, high life satisfaction, and a sense of meaning or purpose. Well-being is feeling well," end quote. And then lastly, Beth Garrity, from the research director at Global Wellness Institute, states, quote, "Wellness needs to change its image and lean into science and data," end quote. And that's what I'm going to be sharing with you now. And we're going to start with mental well-being. And how does that relate to travel in a more holistic way? Psychologists and neuroscientists have been studying and finding that travel has the potential to affect mental change, says theatlantic.com. Studies show a connection between travel and creativity, a deeper sense of cultural awareness, and personal growth. There's also lots of studies that show that travel could also help decrease stress. Things like resilience, cultivating gratitude, generosity, breathing techniques outdoors, slow-paced activities like hikes in nature, all things that are believed to lower stress and are all things that travel can bring. A study from the Wisconsin Rural Women's Health Study reported that women who go on a vacation at least 2 times a year are less prone to chronic stress and depression, as opposed to women who go on a vacation less than once every 2 years. So think about if women or mothers or families are your ideal clients. How can you incorporate this type of messaging, this kind of information into your marketing? When it comes to brain health, recent studies show that the beach is one of the best places to alleviate stress and to heal your brain, says Inc.com. And the Global Coalition on Aging says, quote, "Encountering novel stimuli, which you do a lot during travel, will therefore keep your mind young and improve your memory and concentration," end quote. So we see and we hear a lot of treatments and experiences right now in the travel wellness scene that are aimed towards helping with anti-aging and everything. So think about this more holistic, this rooted purpose of what travel can do to help with that based on information like this. Travel breaks our daily mental routine. That's something else I heard a lot about when talking and interviewing a lot of travelers, to get out of their daily lifestyle, to feel something new, to see something new, to really exercise all of our senses. And the stimuli that we experience through travel is different every time, but that stimulation can get our cognitive ability really going. So things like learning and exploring, thinking, problem solving, navigation, all of these elements of travel can help with this, with our brain health, says studies. A quote here from Dr. Paul Nussbaum, PhD, a clinical neuropsychologist and adjunct professor of neurological surgery at the University of Pittsburgh School of Medicine, says, quote, "Travel is good medicine because it challenges the brain with new and different experiences and environments. It is an important behavior that promotes brain health and builds brain resilience across the lifespan," end quote. So we see a lot of destinations and hotels marketing towards multi-generational family experiences. So grandparents traveling with their grandkids or their mothers with their daughters. So how can you talk about integrate, this bonding, this relationships? And there's really a lot of information that you can start using into your experiences here. Therapeutic landscapes like forests, mountains, and calming seasides may help to decrease the risk of psychosocial stress-related diseases, says the U.S. Library of Medicine. And the Global Travel Institute states that the Great Travel Reset explains how this long year has thrown firewood on the blaze already ignited by forest bathing and the movement by some medical doctors to prescribe time in the woods to patients seeking stress and anxiety relief, end quote. And that leads us into the power of nature. During the pandemic, there are many studies on BBC.com talking about physicians and doctors in England prescribing time in nature, so blue and green spaces, to help people deal with and manage their stress and anxiety and depression levels. So blue spaces, not sure if you have heard this term before, but it really just means spending time near bodies of water. So lakes, the seaside, a pond, an ocean, a river, and then green spaces is any time in forests, parks, gardens. The same thing with the statistics based around time in nature with the physicians in England. They were also prescribing people or recommending, and they say prescription, of gardening, spending time outdoors with plants, and how that can help heal. There is a company called Blue Health, and they do a lot of really great studies around this in their Blue Health project. And they found that short but regular time spent in blue spaces, such as a 20-minute walk along a seafront, cumulatively can boost long-term well-being. So think about your destination and think about what it is that your surroundings can incorporate and offer, and why. Visiting blue spaces is important to people who are seeking to unwind. Blue Health quotes, "We know this simply from analyzing people's habits in terms of where they tend to visit and what they tend to value. For example, we know that people spend more money on a hotel room with seaside views," end quote. And when it comes to green spaces, BBC.com reported that more than 40% of people say that nature, wildlife, and visiting local green spaces have been even more important in their well-being since the pandemic restrictions began, end quote. And then Andrew Gibson, the chairman of the Wellness Tourism Association, quotes, "The wellness traveler wants areas of education and wants to feel like they understand the destinations that they're going to and feel in touch with it," end quote. So we think about what is it that your destination, and we'll dive deeper into these concepts in our next two webinars as well. But how can you educate the traveler and inform them of how these differences can actually help improve what it is that they are setting their intentions for their trip. So are they going to, are they searching to decrease stress, to spend time alone, to soul search, to find purpose, to feel something new? What is it that your client or your visitor is actually looking for? And after physical well-being, we have, or after mental well-being, we have physical well-being. There are countless studies talking about the variations of how travel itself can help improve our physical well-being outside of just going to the gym. Can actually, contrary to popular belief, studies show that traveling can actually help boost our immune system. MatadorNetwork.com reports that, quote, "The travel exposes you to different environments, which creates strong antibodies and boosts your immune system significantly," end quote. And the US Library of Medicine talks about how soaking in a salty seawater can help reduce inflammation of the joints and alleviate arthritis issues. So if your demographic tends to be older, or if you have local hot springs nearby, these are types of things to think about. And the Framingham Heart Study reported that to decrease your heart risk of disease from less stress and less anxiety, men and women who traveled annually were less likely to suffer from a heart attack or develop heart disease. And that was an ongoing long study that Framingham Heart Study conducted. Travel is known to keep you active and fit, to be outdoors and promote healthy aging. Lowering stress can also lower the hormone cortisol, which is known to speed up the aging process, as the Mayo Clinic. There's healing properties of natural resources. When we think about, there is a great study that the Health Tourism Worldwide came out with, and they talked about what people were reported that they were looking for in 2020. It came out in the very beginning of 2021, I believe. We talked a lot about natural resources and therapeutic resources. So in the future webinar, I'm going to dive into what some of those look like. Also getting vitamin D, being in the sunshine, helping improve bone health and also your mental well-being. I know for myself, I need to go get a dose of just being in the sun, makes me feel better, makes me feel more creative, more productive, puts me in a better mindset as well. Travel can also improve respiration, says the Wall Street Journal. They reported that in the 18th and 19th centuries. It is also believed that science, what now show, which is that breathing in fresh beach air and activities like surfing has healing powers, like thinning the mucus lining, and easing sinus pressure, reduce coughing, and improve lung health. Something that not too often is talked about when it comes to wellness and travel is the emotional and spiritual well-being. We hear a lot about the mental and physical, but people travel also for spiritual journeys to balance their to gain back emotional stability as well. We have a quote here from Mary Ellen Imordino Yang, an associate professor of education and psychology at the University of Southern California. And she states that, quote, what a lot of psychological research has shown now is that the ability to engage with people from different backgrounds than yourself and the ability to get out of your own social comfort zone is helping you to build a strong and a cultured sense of your own self, end quote. And like I mentioned, in the research that I've done and talked to among the travelers, one of the very popular reasons why they say that they travel is to meet new people or to feel fulfilled or to soul search or to spend time alone. So these are different. So thinking about your people and your place and your culture and the experiences and the offers that you can provide. Travel is also known to build an emotional preparedness to be receptive of others while deepening compassion and empathy. So we think about things like giving back, volunteerism, things like this is on the rise as well. People want to feel like they're making a difference. They also want to feel something different. As for social well-being, a person's social ties and the quality of social relationships can mediate the effect of stress on health, end quote, says Dr. Ruth Kirkstein, the former director of the National Institutes of Health. One thing that we have been lacking over the past few years, which has been social interaction and human connection, other outside of things like Zoom and phone calls. That's something that people have always turned to travel for. They want to meet new people. Like I said, it's one of the most common answers that I get. So what does that look like? Whether you're in your property is a co-working living space, whether you are a shared accommodation space, as a hotel, how can you create this sense of community, this sense of social interaction and connection as well? And alongside all of the mental, physical, emotional, spiritual, social wellness benefits, there's also the professional benefits. And this is something to really think about because of the increase in remote work and digital nomads, which is only going to get more prevalent once companies establish, their own guidelines when it comes to remote work, and people have more opportunities now than ever to either work remotely or work for themselves online and fulfill those freedom kind of lifestyles that they've been looking for a while. So how can you utilize what it is in your destination, your hotel, your offerings that embrace the professional well-being of a person? So there are many studies talking about how travel itself can help increase creativity levels and innovation levels, build relationships, team building as well, increased productivity. And I will dive deeper into those in a future webinar that we have. Felicity Long from Travel Weekly states that, quote, purposeful travel, another new term referring to a desire on the part of travelers for authentic experiences abroad, is another predicted trend. The radical appeals in our lifestyles brought on by the pandemic and the introspection that ensued for many of us are expected to strengthen this trend, which had already been gaining traction in the past few years, end quote. And we've heard terms like this, like I mentioned, transformative travel and purposeful travel and meaningful travel, wellness travel. But what does that mean for your brand and your business? What is the intention of the business trip or the personal trip or the family trip? What are those? Why is someone actually coming to your destination, to your property? And how can your services and your offers cater to that? How can you really create a truly customized, personalized experience? And this is the future of where travel and wellness travel is going. Before we end here, we have one last quote from Emlyn Brown, the Global VP of Wellbeing at Accor. He says, quote, COVID will accelerate demand and well-being through a change in hospitality for a more wellness and well-being focused approach from a guest and a service point of view. 2021 is the time to address pain and prepare for that and the strong rebound to come. And of course, end quote. And of course, this quote came from 2021 and we are now in the next year. So are you incorporating something more innovative, different, standing out? Are you looking to stand out among competitors moving forward? Once everyone does do the same thing with same similar treatments and facilities and state-of-the-art gyms and spas and same instructors and sessions, what else can you do to stand out? And that's where we look at going back to the roots and the fundamentals of why we travel in the first place. So some things I want, some takeaways that I want for you to think about are, what does wellness mean to you and your brand? What are your ideal consumers or travelers really looking for and are in need of? What does your people and place have to offer? And what can you offer that others are not? And these are questions that I'll be answering in the next two webinars. After each webinar, you will have the opportunity to download a guide that I have provided, I've created for you. One is on providing more meaningful experiences, another's on attracting the business traveler and working with travel managers. And the last is questions to get to know your clients better in order to provide them with a transformative experience that they're looking for if you're a travel professional. Be sure to sign up for our next webinar and the replay. And I think, Linda, you'll probably go over this, but the replay will be emailed out alongside those resources for you to choose from, whichever you desire, and the ability to sign up for our next two webinars. If you have any questions, please feel free to email me at sahararosatravels@gmail.com or contact Linda and let us know that you're interested in learning more and taking more action to incorporate more holistic and more innovative wellness services and experiences for your company. Thank you all so much.
Thank you, Sahara. That was very informative. I have to say, a couple of weeks ago, I was actually in Montenegro, and I was surprised at how my skin changed. Purely, I was there for about 5 days, but definitely what you said really resonates. So a question for me is, I think for a lot of properties, it can be quite overwhelming in regards to, where they need to start the journey and what they need to look at, because, you have talked about a lot. So for individual properties, I mean, what would be your advice on how to even start this journey of wellness?
Yeah, well, luckily we have 2 more webinars coming up, so we'll be diving into that, and definitely reaching out to be able to get more, because every property is different. Everyone has different set of clients and branding, so I really have to do a deep dive with that. But in the next 2 webinars, I will be giving examples of what is being done and what you can think about, and some kind of just beginning beginner steps. But those resources I provided are going to be great beginners for everyone as well. So be sure everyone to download yours.
Perfect. Excellent. So then that means that everyone definitely has to join the next ones to find out secrets, I think. So, again, just really to end from APLBC's point of view, I really hope that people have found this useful. I think for me, it's a big educational learning curve. And I think it's something that we definitely need to talk about. And really look at how we can incorporate it into our businesses. So as Sahara said, you'll be getting an email tomorrow, which will have the recording. And for those of us that couldn't join, because we had quite a few people signing up, we'll also send them the recording as well, and then the free resources that they'll have access to. And then we hope to see everyone at our next webinar. Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Linda.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye.